First contact and misconceptions. The vast expanse of space had always held secrets, but none quite as surprising as the one the Zarkon Empire stumbled upon in the year 2157. Admiral Zexera, her iridescent scales shimmering under the harsh lights of the bridge, stared at the holographic display with all four of her eyes. The small blue planet rotating slowly before her seemed unremarkable, yet the readings were unmistakable. Life. Intelligent life. Confirm scan results, Zexera ordered, her voice a mix of clicks and low-frequency rumbles. Her second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vexlor, tapped a series of commands into the ship's neural interface. Confirmed, Admiral. The planet designated Earth shows signs of a technologically advanced civilization. However, he paused, mandibles twitching in confusion. Speak, Vexlor, Zexera urged. Their technology is primitive by our standards. They'd barely touched their own solar system. It's remarkable they've survived this long. Zexera's head crest flared with interest. In the millennia since the Zarkon had taken to the stars, they'd encountered many species, but few had managed to advance without self-destructing. Prepare a first contact team. I want to see these humans for myself. As the Zarkon ship entered Earth's orbit, the response was predictably chaotic. Earth's governments scrambled, military forces were mobilized, and media outlets blared endless speculation. But amidst the panic, a small group of human leaders managed to coordinate a response. Dr. Samantha Chen, Earth's leading xenolinguist, stood at the forefront of the welcoming committee. Her heart raced as the sleek, biomechanical Zarkon shuttle touched down in a field just outside New York City. She took a deep breath, clutching her universal translator, a device that, until now, had been purely theoretical. The shuttle's hull split open like a blooming flower, and out stepped Admiral Zexera, flanked by her guards. Samantha's eyes widened at the sight. The Zarkon were a striking species, tall, insectoid creatures with 4 arms and iridescent exoskeletons. Zexera's head crest pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, a feature Samantha would later learn was integral to Zarkon communication. "Welcome to Earth," Samantha said, her voice steady despite her nerves. She activated the translator, hoping it would convey her words accurately. Zexera's head tilted, her compound eyes focusing on the small human before her. When she spoke, her words came out as a series of clicks and rumbles, but the translator did its job. "We are the Zarkon. We come seeking knowledge and exchange." The first days of contact were a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings, cultural exchanges, and scientific discussions. The Zarkon were eager to learn about Earth and its inhabitants, but their initial fascination quickly gave way to bewilderment and, in some cases, dismissal. In a private meeting with Earth's leaders, Zexera didn't mince words. "Your species is puzzling," she said, her translator struggling to convey the complex emotions in her voice. "You've achieved much with so little. Your bodies are fragile, your lifespan's brief, yet you persist. Why?" President Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth Coalition leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Admiral, with all due respect, our fragility, as you call it, is our strength. We adapt. We overcome. It's not the duration of life that matters, but what we do with the time given to us." Zexera's head crest flickered with patterns that the humans couldn't yet interpret. It was a mix of amusement and skepticism. Noble words, but the galaxy is vast and unforgiving. How will you adapt when faced with threats beyond your comprehension? The question hung in the air, unanswered, but not forgotten. As weeks turned into months, the cultural exchange deepened. Zarkon scientists marveled at human art, music, and literature. They were particularly fascinated by human history, a tapestry of triumphs and tragedies, of empires risen and fallen, of countless wars, but also incredible acts of cooperation. But it was human technology that truly baffled the Zarkon. By their standards, it was inefficient, often redundant, and sometimes downright primitive. Yet it worked. Humans had split the atom, touched the moon, and created global information networks using technology that the Zarkon considered obsolete centuries ago. Sub-Commander Vexlor, tasked with studying human military capabilities, delivered his report to Admiral Zexera with a mix of confusion and disdain. Their weapons are crude, Admiral. Projectile-based, mostly. Their ships can barely leave their atmosphere. And their soldiers. He paused, mandibles clicking in what might have been laughter. They tire easily, require constant sustenance, and their bodies break under the slightest pressure. In a conflict, they wouldn't stand a chance. Zexera absorbed the information, her compound eyes revealing nothing. And yet, Vexlor, their history is filled with warfare. They've survived. Thrived, even. How do you explain this? Vexlor's head crest dimmed slightly. Luck, perhaps, or maybe. He hesitated. Speak freely, Sub-Commander. Maybe we're missing something, Admiral. Something we can't quantify or measure. Zexera chittered softly, a sound that might have been agreement. Continue your observations, Vexlor. I suspect these humans have more to teach us than we initially thought. As the Zarkon deepened their understanding of humanity, tensions began to simmer beneath the surface of this interspecies relationship. Humans, for their part, were grateful for the advanced technology and knowledge the Zarkon shared, but many bristled at the aliens' thinly veiled condescension. The Zarkon, despite their fascination, couldn't shake their belief in their own superiority. This delicate balance was tested when a group of human extremists, fearing alien influence, attacked a Zarkon research facility. The response was swift and brutal, with Zarkon warriors easily subduing the attackers. But the incident left both sides shaken. In the aftermath, Dr. Samantha Chen found herself mediating a tense meeting between Zexera and President Rodriguez. This attack is unacceptable, Zexera clicked, her bioluminescent patterns flashing with anger. We came in peace, offering knowledge beyond your dreams, and this is how we're repaid. Rodriguez's face was a mask of calm, but her voice carried steel. The actions of a few do not represent humanity as a whole, Admiral. We condemn this attack in the strongest terms, but your response, the force used was excessive. Zexera's head crest flared. Excessive? We showed restraint. If we wanted to, we could have. Could have what? Rodriguez interrupted, her eyes narrowing. Destroyed us? Is that the kind of relationship you want, Admiral? Because let me assure you, if it comes to that, you'll find humanity is not as weak as you seem to think. The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Samantha looked between the two leaders, her mind racing to find the right words to diffuse the situation. Perhaps, she said carefully, this incident highlights the need for deeper understanding on both sides. We have much to learn from each other, but learning requires humility and open-mindedness. Zexera's compound eyes swiveled to Samantha, studying her intently. After a long moment, the Admiral's posture relaxed slightly. Your words have merit, Dr. Chen. We may have underestimated the complexities of this exchange. As the meeting concluded, both sides agreed to establish a joint task force to improve cultural understanding and security protocols. But as Samantha watched Zexera's shuttle depart, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger challenge. In the following days, both humans and Zarkon found themselves reevaluating their perceptions of each other. The humans, spurred by the realization of their technological inferiority, redoubled their efforts in scientific research and space exploration. The Zarkon, shaken by the ferocity of the human response to their show of force, began to look at human history with new eyes. Vexlor, in particular, spent long hours studying human warfare. He pored over accounts of battles won against overwhelming odds, of innovative strategies that turned the tide of wars, of the indomitable human spirit in the face of adversity. Slowly, a new understanding began to dawn on him. As the first part of this unexpected interspecies saga drew to a close, Both humans and Zarkon stood at a crossroads. The initial misconceptions were beginning to fade, replaced by a wary respect and a growing realization that perhaps, in the vastness of the cosmos, they needed each other more than either side was willing to admit. But greater challenges loomed on the horizon, challenges that would test the mettle of both species and reveal the true nature of humanity's strength. The galaxy, it seemed, had much more in store for this unlikely alliance. The galactic threat emerges. The uneasy peace between humans and the Zarkon had lasted for nearly a year when the galaxy decided to throw them both a curveball. It came in the form of a distress signal, picked up simultaneously by Earth's deep space arrays and the Zarkon fleet in orbit. Admiral Zexera's compound eyes flickered with concern as she studied the holographic representation of the signal's origin. "It's coming from the Andromeda Galaxy," she clicked, her translator conveying the gravity in her voice. "That's millions of light-years away. No known species has the technology to transmit across such vast distances." Dr. Samantha Chen, now Earth's official liaison to the Zarkon, furrowed her brow. Could it be a natural phenomenon? A pulsar, perhaps? Vexilor, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, stepped forward. "No, Dr. Chen. This signal, it's a warning." The room fell silent as Vexilor interfaced with the ship's computer, decoding the complex message embedded within the signal. As the translation appeared on screens around the room, a chill ran down Samantha's spine. "They call themselves the Void Heralds," Vexilor explained, his usual bravado replaced by a somber tone. "They're a species of energy beings, capable of consuming entire star systems to fuel their expansion. They've already devoured much of their home galaxy and are now setting their sights on ours." President Rodriguez, joining via holographic projection, leaned forward. "How much time do we have?" Zexera's head crest pulsed with urgent patterns, based on the signal's age and their estimated speed. "Less than 5 years before they reach the outer edges of our galaxy." The news spread like wildfire through both human and Zarkon societies. Panic gripped many, but others rallied, calling for unity in the face of this existential threat. The Zarkon, for all their advanced technology, found themselves at a loss. Their weapons, designed for physical combat, seemed woefully inadequate against beings of pure energy. It was in this moment of galactic crisis that humanity's unique qualities began to shine through. In a joint emergency session of Earth's governments and Zarkon High Command, ideas flew thick and fast. Scientists proposed harnessing the power of black holes. Engineers suggested massive energy shields to protect populated systems, and military strategists debated the merits of hit-and-run tactics versus concentrated defense. Amidst the clamor, a young human physicist named Dr. Aiden Nakamura cleared his throat. "What if," he began hesitantly, "we're thinking about this all wrong. We're trying to fight energy with energy, but what if we could contain it instead?" Zexera's compound eyes swiveled towards him. "Explain, Dr. Nakamura." Aiden's confidence grew as he spoke. "The Void Heralds are energy beings, right? Energy can't be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. What if we could create a pocket dimension of sorts, a space where we could lure them and then seal them off?" The room erupted in a mix of excited chatter and skeptical rebuttals. Vexilor, who had been studying human warfare intently over the past year, found himself nodding along. "It's unorthodox," he admitted, "but it just might work." Over the next few months, human and Zarkon scientists worked tirelessly to bring Aiden's idea to life. The project, codenamed Pandora's Box, combined cutting-edge human theoretical physics with advanced Zarkon technology. It was a marriage of human imagination and alien engineering that neither side could have achieved alone. As the work progressed, Zexera found herself spending more time with the humans, particularly Dr. Chen and Dr. Nakamura. She was continually surprised by their ability to think outside the boundaries of established science, to make intuitive leaps that her own people would have dismissed as illogical. One evening, as they took a rare break from their labors, Zexera turned to Samantha. "I must confess, Dr. Chen, I'm beginning to understand why your species has survived despite its limitations." Samantha raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what have you concluded, Admiral?" Zexera's head crest pulsed with patterns that Samantha had learned to recognize as thoughtfulness. "You humans, you don't accept limitations. Where we see insurmountable obstacles, you see challenges to overcome. It's admirable, if sometimes foolhardy." Samantha couldn't help but smile. "We have a saying on Earth, Admiral. Necessity is the mother of invention. When our backs are against the wall, that's when we're often at our most creative." As if to prove her point, a breakthrough came just days later. The team had successfully created a stable microdimension in the lab, a pocket of space-time that could theoretically trap and contain vast amounts of energy. It was a monumental achievement, but it presented a new challenge: how to deploy it on a galactic scale. Once again, it was human ingenuity that provided a solution. Captain Michael Torres, a veteran of Earth's Space Force, proposed using a network of faster-than-light probes to create a web of these pocket dimensions across the galaxy's outer rim. "Like a net," he explained, his eyes alight with excitement. "We let the Void Heralds come to us, then spring the trap." The plan was audacious, requiring precision timing and coordination on a scale never before attempted. But as the first probes were launched, a new sense of hope began to spread through both human and Zarkon societies. Vexlor, watching the launch from the bridge of the Zarkon flagship, turned to Zexera. "I think I understand now," he said softly. "Understand what, Sub-Commander? Why these humans are so dangerous. It's not their bodies or their technology. It's their minds. Their spirit." He gestured towards the view screen, where the sleek, human-designed probes were disappearing into the vastness of space. They refused to accept defeat, even in the face of impossible odds, and that makes them capable of achieving the impossible. Zexera chittered in agreement, her compound eyes reflecting the starlight. "Indeed, Vexilor, and I suspect we've only begun to scratch the surface of what they're capable of." As the probes sped towards their destinations, carrying with them the hopes of two species and countless others across the galaxy, both humans and Zarkon found themselves entering a new phase of their relationship. The initial misconceptions and tensions had given way to a grudging respect, and now, in the face of a common threat, something more was blossoming. A true partnership. But the real test was yet to come. The Void Heralds were approaching, an unstoppable force of cosmic destruction. The trap was set, but would it be enough? And what unforeseen challenges would arise in the heat of battle? As Part 2 drew to a close, the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the coming storm. Humanity had proven its worth as an ally, but soon they would need to prove themselves as warriors on a cosmic scale. The true measure of their strength was about to be tested, and the outcome would determine the fate of not just Earth or the Zarkon Empire, but of all life in the galaxy. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape the understanding of what it meant to be a galactic power. And at the heart of it all stood humanity, ready to show the universe why they were, perhaps, the most dangerous species of all. The Battle of New Horizon. The day humanity had been preparing for finally arrived. Long-range sensors detected the Void Heralds entering the Milky Way, their energy signatures unmistakable against the backdrop of normal space. The joint human-Zarkon fleet, assembled at the edge of the galaxy, tensed for battle. Admiral Zexera stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Starfire, her iridescent exoskeleton reflecting the tense atmosphere around her. Beside her, Captain Michael Torres of the Earth ship Defiant looked almost calm, his weathered face betraying only a hint of the stress he must be feeling. "They're earlier than we expected," Zexera clicked, her translator conveying the urgency in her tone. Torres nodded, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the approaching enemy. "Good. I hate waiting." Zexera's head crest flickered with patterns of surprise and admiration. Even now, on the brink of a battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy, this human maintained his composure. It was impressive. The comm system crackled to life, and Dr. Aiden Nakamura's voice filled the bridge. "Admiral, Captain, the Pandora network is online and ready. We're as prepared as we'll ever be." "Acknowledged, Doctor," Torres replied. "Now we just need to spring the trap." The plan was daring in its simplicity. Lure the Void Heralds into the web of pocket dimensions created by the Pandora probes, then activate the network, trapping the energy beings in a maze of space-time bubbles. In theory, it was brilliant. In practice, well, they were about to find out. As the Void Heralds approached, their true nature became apparent. They were vast, swirling vortexes of pure energy, each one capable of engulfing entire star systems. The sight sent a shiver through even the most hardened Zarkon warriors. "All ships, battle stations," Zexera ordered, her voice steady. "Remember the plan. Draw them in, but do not engage directly unless absolutely necessary." The human Zarkon fleet moved into position, a delicate dance of ships acting as bait for a cosmic predator. The Void Heralds, sensing the concentration of matter and energy, took the bait. What followed was a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The Void Heralds, realizing too late that they had been tricked, lashed out with tendrils of destructive energy. Ships exploded, their crews vaporized in an instant. But for every ship lost, the fleet drew the Heralds deeper into the Pandora network. On the Starfire's bridge, alarms blared as another cruiser fell to the Herald's onslaught. "We're losing too many," Vexlor shouted, his usual bravado replaced by genuine fear. Torres, his face illuminated by the flashes of distant explosions, turned to Zexera. "We need to buy more time. Permission to take the Defiant on a run." Zexera's compound eyes widened. "That's suicide, Captain." Torres allowed himself a grim smile. "Maybe, but it might just work." Before Zexera could protest further, the Defiant broke formation, charging headlong towards the largest concentration of Void Heralds. The human ship weaved through the energy blasts with impossible agility, drawing the attention of the cosmic horrors. "What are they doing?" Vexlor asked, mandibles clicking in agitation. Zexera watched in awe as the Defiant led a merry chase through the battlefield, drawing more and more Void Heralds into the heart of the Pandora network. "They're giving us a chance," she replied softly. Just when it seemed the Defiant couldn't possibly survive another moment, Torres's voice came through the comm. "Now, Dr. Nakamura, activate the network." Across the battlefield, the Pandora probes hummed to life. Space itself seemed to ripple and fold, pocket dimensions opening like the petals of some cosmic flower. The Void Heralds, caught off guard, found themselves being pulled into these spatial anomalies. But the battle was far from over. As the pocket dimensions began to close, sealing the way vast numbers of the energy beings, the remaining Heralds redoubled their assault. Ships on both sides fell to their furious attack, and for a moment, it seemed as though the plan might fail. It was in this moment of crisis that humanity's true strength shone through. Across the fleet, human crews began improvising, adapting their tactics on the fly in ways that left their Zarkon allies stunned. The crew of the Earth ship Intrepid, their weapons systems destroyed, used their ship's gravitational fields to redirect Void Herald attacks back at the attackers. The science vessel Curiosity, originally meant to stay far from the battle, plunged into the fray, using its advanced sensors to predict and counter the Herald's movements. And through it all, the Defiant danced. Torres and his crew pushed their ship beyond its limits, performing maneuvers that should have torn the vessel apart. They became the focal point of the battle, a beacon of defiance that inspired the entire fleet. Zexera, watching this display of human courage and ingenuity, felt something she had never experienced before: humility. "Vexlor," she said, her voice filled with newfound respect, "I think we may have underestimated our allies." Vexlor, his eyes fixed on the battlefield, could only nod in agreement. As the battle raged on, more and more Void Heralds found themselves trapped in the Pandora network. Those that remained free became increasingly erratic, their attacks more desperate. It was a turning point, but victory was still not assured. In a final, cataclysmic push, the remaining heralds gathered their energy for one last assault. The combined fleet braced for impact, knowing that their shields couldn't withstand such a concentrated attack. But once again, human ingenuity provided a solution. Dr. Samantha Chen, working frantically with a team of human and Zarkon scientists, had a breakthrough. "We can use the closed pocket dimensions as a shield," she shouted over the comm. "Their energy signatures should repel the herald's attack." It was a desperate gambit, but at this point, desperation was all they had. Following Samantha's instructions, the fleet repositioned itself behind the shimmering wall of sealed pocket dimensions. As the Void Heralds unleashed their final attack, the improvised shield held, barely. In the aftermath of that titanic energy discharge, the remaining heralds found themselves weakened and outnumbered. One by one, they were corralled into the waiting maw of the Pandora network, until finally, improbably, the battle was won. As the dust settled, and the fleet took stock of their losses, a stunned silence fell over the battlefield. They had done it, against all odds, facing an enemy that by all rights should have annihilated them. They had emerged victorious. On the bridge of the Starfire, Zexera turned to address her crew, her translator struggling to convey the depth of emotion in her voice. "Today, we have witnessed something extraordinary. We have seen courage in the face of impossible odds, ingenuity in the heart of chaos, and a spirit of cooperation that transcends species. But above all, we have seen the true strength of our human allies." She paused, her compound eyes scanning the battered but unbowed fleet before her. "I admit, when we first encountered humans, I thought them primitive, fragile, even foolish. I was wrong. Today, they have proven themselves to be among the most formidable warriors this galaxy has ever known. Not because of their technology or their physical strength, but because of their indomitable spirit and their ability to adapt and overcome." As cheers erupted across the fleet, human and Zarkon alike, Zexera realized that this battle had changed more than just the fate of the galaxy. It had changed the Zarkon themselves, challenging their perceptions and opening their eyes to new possibilities. The Battle of New Horizon, as it would come to be known, marked a turning point in galactic history. It was the day when humans proved their worth not just as allies, but as a force to be reckoned with in the cosmic arena. But as the fleet began the long journey home, carrying with them tales of valor and victory, a new challenge loomed on the horizon. The Void Heralds were contained, but for how long? And what other threats might be lurking in the vast, unexplored reaches of the universe? One thing was certain: whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them with the same spirit and determination they had shown today. And the Zarkon, once dismissive of their primitive allies, would stand beside them, ready to take on the universe together. The galaxy would never be the same again. Uncovering the enemy's weakness. In the weeks following the Battle of New Horizon, a new era of cooperation dawned between humanity and the Zarkon. The victory had come at a great cost. Countless lives lost, ships destroyed, and the looming threat of the contained but not defeated Void Heralds. As the joint fleet limped back to Earth, minds on both sides were already racing towards the next challenge: how to ensure the long-term containment of their cosmic foe. At a high-security facility on Mars, newly christened as the Intergalactic Research Center, a team of the brightest minds from both species gathered. Dr. Samantha Chen and Dr. Aiden Nakamura represented humanity, while the Zarkon contingent was led by Vexilor, who had traded his military uniform for the robes of a scientist. "The Pandora network is holding," Aiden reported, his holographic display showing the vast web of pocket dimensions stretching across the galaxy's edge. "But we're detecting fluctuations. The Void Heralds are testing their prison." Vexilor chittered nervously, a sound that his translator rendered as a thoughtful hum. Our containment may not be permanent. We need to find a way to neutralize them completely. Samantha, her eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep, nodded in agreement. To do that, we need to understand them better. What exactly are they? How did they come to be? And most importantly, do they have any weaknesses we can exploit? The team set to work, poring over the data collected during the battle. They analyzed energy signatures, studied the few fragments of Void Herald matter they had managed to collect, and ran countless simulations. Progress was slow, and frustration mounted. It was during one particularly grueling session that an unexpected breakthrough came from an unlikely source. Captain Michael Torres, still recovering from injuries sustained during the battle, had been invited to observe the research team's work. As he listened to the scientists debate theories, something clicked in his mind. "Hold on," he interrupted, his voice cutting through the technical jargon. "You're all thinking about this like scientists. But what if we looked at it from a tactical perspective?" The room fell silent, all eyes turning to the battle-worn captain. Torres limped to the holographic display, manipulating the image with practiced ease despite his injuries. "Look here," he said, highlighting a particular sequence of the battle. "Every time we closed off a section of the Pandora network, the Herald's attack patterns changed. It was subtle, but consistent, almost like they were adapting." Vexler finished, his mandibles clicking in excitement. "But that would mean they're not just mindless energy," Samantha breathed, the implications dawning on her. "They're sentient, possibly even a collective intelligence." This revelation sparked a flurry of new research directions. If the Void Heralds were indeed sentient, perhaps communication was possible. And if they could communicate, they might be able to negotiate, or at the very least, understand their motivations. Dr. Nakamura threw himself into developing a means of communication, combining advanced quantum entanglement techniques with the pocket dimension technology used in the Pandora network. His goal was to create a bridge between normal space and the contained heralds, allowing for the exchange of information without risking their release. Meanwhile, Samantha and Vexler focused on deciphering the energy patterns observed during the battle, working on the theory that these might be a form of language. It was painstaking work, requiring them to set aside preconceived notions from both human and Zarkon linguistics. Weeks turned into months, and slowly progress was made. Aiden's communication bridge proved successful, allowing them to send simple pulses of energy into the pocket dimensions and receive responses. Samantha and Vexler's work began to bear fruit as well, as they started to recognize patterns in the Herald's energy emissions that could indeed be a form of communication. But it was the combination of these efforts with Torres's tactical insights that led to the biggest breakthrough. By analyzing the Herald's responses to different types of energy pulses and correlating them with their behavior during the battle, a pattern emerged. They're not just communicating, Torres realized during one late-night session. They're reacting emotionally. "Look here, when we send pulses mimicking their own energy signature, they become agitated. But when we send pulses of a different frequency, they calm down," Samantha finished, her eyes wide with understanding. "It's like music to them. Different frequencies evoke different responses." This discovery opened up entirely new avenues of research. If the Void Heralds could be influenced by specific energy frequencies, perhaps they could be pacified or even redirected. The team began experimenting with various energy melodies, observing the Herald's reactions through the communication bridge. As they delved deeper into this energy-based language, they made another startling discovery. The Void Heralds weren't inherently destructive. They were hungry. Their consumption of star systems wasn't an act of malice, but a desperate search for sustenance. Their home galaxy had been depleted of the specific type of energy they needed to survive, driving them to seek new sources. This revelation sparked a heated debate among the research team. Some, like Vexler, argued that understanding the Herald's motivations didn't change the fact that they were a threat to all life in the galaxy. Others, including Samantha, saw an opportunity for a peaceful resolution. If we can find a way to provide them with the energy they need, she argued passionately, we might be able to coexist, maybe even learn from them. The debate raged on, but one thing was clear. They had found the Void Herald's weakness. Whether it would be used to destroy them or to forge an unprecedented alliance remained to be seen. As news of these discoveries spread, it sparked a new wave of innovation across both human and Zarkon societies. Engineers began designing new types of energy generators. Theorists proposed methods of harvesting energy from the vacuum of space itself, and ethicists grappled with the moral implications of potentially communing with a species that had nearly destroyed them. Admiral Zexera, watching these developments from her position overseeing the combined fleet, found herself once again marveling at human adaptability. Where the Zarkon saw only a threat to be eliminated, humans saw a puzzle to be solved, a potential ally to be won over. They truly are remarkable, she mused to her aide. In the face of cosmic horror, they seek understanding. In the aftermath of devastating battle, they look for peaceful solutions. Perhaps this is the true source of their strength. As Part 4 drew to a close, the joint human-Zarkon research team stood on the brink of a decision that would shape the future of the galaxy. The knowledge they had gained provided them with the power to potentially destroy the Void Heralds once and for all. But it also offered the tantalizing possibility of turning a deadly enemy into an ally of unimaginable power. The stage was set for a final confrontation, not one of weapons and warships, but of ideas and possibilities. And once again, humanity found itself at the center of a cosmic drama, ready to shape the destiny of not just their own species, but of all sentient life in the galaxy. The true test of humanity's status as the most dangerous warriors in the universe was about to begin. But this time, the battlefield would be one of diplomacy, ethics, and the very nature of existence itself. The Last Stand and Revelation. The Grand Chamber of the United Galactic Council buzzed with tension. Representatives from every spacefaring race in the Milky Way had gathered to decide the fate of the Void Heralds, and by extension, the future of the galaxy itself. At the center of it all stood a small delegation of humans, their presence a testament to how far they had come in such a short time on the cosmic stage. Dr. Samantha Chen took a deep breath as she approached the podium. Behind her, Captain Michael Torres and Dr. Aiden Nakamura offered encouraging nods. Across the chamber, Admiral Zexera and Vexlor watched intently, their compound eyes reflecting the gravity of the moment. Distinguished representatives, Samantha began, her voice steady despite the weight of trillions of lives resting on her words. We stand at a crossroads. The choice before us is not just about the fate of the Void Heralds, but about who we are as sentient beings and what we want our galaxy to be. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the diverse assembly. We have the means to destroy the Heralds, to eliminate a threat that nearly annihilated us all. Many would say this is the prudent course, the safe choice. But I stand before you today to argue for a different path. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Samantha pressed on. Our research has shown that the Void Heralds are not mindless destroyers, but a species driven by desperation and hunger. They are sentient, capable of communication, and we believe of change. We propose not destruction, but dialogue. Not elimination, but coexistence. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of protests and exclamations. Representatives from worlds that had suffered under the Herald's onslaught were particularly vocal in their opposition. Samantha stood firm, waiting for the noise to subside. I understand your fear, she continued once silence fell again. Believe me, I share it. But fear cannot be the foundation upon which we build our future. We humans have a long history of turning enemies into allies, of finding common ground where none seemed possible. It is, perhaps, our greatest strength. She gestured to her colleagues. We have developed a method to communicate with the Heralds, to provide them with the energy they need without the destruction of inhabited systems. Yes, it will require sacrifice. Yes, it carries risks. But the potential benefits, the knowledge we could gain, The advancements we could make together are immeasurable. As Samantha laid out the detailed plan, involving a network of specially designed energy generators and carefully controlled interactions with the heralds, the mood in the chamber began to shift. Skepticism remained, but it was now tinged with curiosity, and in some cases, hope. Yet not everyone was convinced. A Zarkon elder, his exoskeleton bearing the scars of countless battles, rose to speak. "This is madness," he clicked, his translator barely keeping up with his agitated speech. "The humans are young, naive. They do not understand the true dangers of the universe. We cannot risk everything on this experiment." The debate raged for hours, with impassioned arguments on both sides. Through it all, the human delegation stood firm, answering questions, addressing concerns, and steadfastly advocating for their vision of a more inclusive, understanding galaxy. As the council seemed to reach an impasse, Admiral Zexera stepped forward. The chamber fell silent, all eyes turning to the decorated war hero. "Not long ago," she began, her voice carrying the weight of her experiences, "I would have agreed with those calling for the Herald's destruction. I saw humans as primitive, fragile creatures, barely worth notice in the grand scheme of the cosmos." She paused, her compound eyes focusing on Samantha and her team. "I was wrong." Zexera's head crest pulsed with patterns of respect and admiration. "These humans have shown us a different way. In the face of annihilation, they sought understanding. When confronted with an implacable enemy, they looked for common ground. They have demonstrated a strength not of weapons or technology, but of spirit and intellect." She turned to address the entire assembly. "I have seen these humans in battle. I have witnessed their courage, their adaptability, their sheer determination to survive against all odds. But more importantly, I have seen their capacity for compassion, even towards those who sought to destroy them. If they believe this path is worth pursuing, I, for one, am inclined to trust their judgment." The Admiral's words seemed to break the deadlock. One by one, representatives began to voice their support for the human plan. It was far from unanimous, but as the final votes were tallied, it became clear the proposal had passed. The galaxy would attempt communication and coexistence with the Void Heralds. The weeks that followed were a flurry of activity. The Pandora network was carefully modified. Energy generators were constructed and deployed, and a team of linguists and scientists from across the galaxy worked tirelessly to refine their understanding of Herald communication. Finally, the day of first contact arrived. In a specially constructed facility at the edge of the galaxy, Samantha and her team prepared to open a controlled channel to the pocket dimension containing the Heralds. The tension was palpable as energy pulses were sent out, carrying messages of peace and offers of sustenance. For what seemed like an eternity, there was no response. Then suddenly, the sensors lit up. Energy patterns flowed back through the channel, complex and beautiful. As the translation algorithms worked to decipher the message, Samantha held her breath. Slowly, words began to appear on the screen. "We hear, we understand, we accept." The room erupted in cheers and tears of joy. It was just the beginning of what would undoubtedly be a long and challenging process, but it was a start towards a future where understanding triumphed over fear, where diversity was seen as strength, and where even the most unlikely of allies could find common ground. As news of the successful contact spread across the galaxy, Admiral Zexera found herself in a quiet moment of reflection with Captain Torres. "You know," she clicked softly, her translator conveying a tone of wonder, "when we first encountered your species, we thought we were the advanced ones, coming to enlighten the primitive humans." Torres chuckled. "And now?" Zexera's head crest pulsed with colors that Torres had learned to recognize as amusement and respect. "Now I understand why humans are truly the most dangerous warriors in the universe. It's not your weapons or your tactics. It's your ideas. Your ability to see possibilities where others see only threats. Your stubborn refusal to accept limitations." She turned her compound eyes to the stars visible through the viewport. "You've changed the galaxy, Captain, and I have a feeling you're only just getting started." As they stood there, human and Zarkon side by side, the vastness of space before them seemed less like a void and more like a canvas of endless possibilities. The Void Heralds had been the galaxy's greatest threat, but in facing that threat, humanity had proven itself to be the galaxy's greatest hope. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with obstacles and setbacks, but with human ingenuity leading the way, supported by the strength and wisdom of their alien allies, the future of the galaxy looked brighter than ever before. In the end, it wasn't humanity's capacity for war that made them the most dangerous warriors in the universe. It was their capacity for peace, their ability to turn enemies into friends, and their unshakable belief that a better future was always possible, no matter the odds. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.